So there is this unfortunate fallacy that has been allowed to linger in this country for a very long time. And it is the lie that Lagos State is only what it is today because it has been getting some sort of preferential treatment. That Lagos State will not be as successful as it is without the presence of the 3 seaports or the international airport. And that there is a concerted plan to subdue a certain region. I don't know whether this plan was from independence or from amalgamation, but that there is a plan to subdue a certain region in favor of Lagos and maybe the entire Southwest. But I believe that by the end of this video, I'll be able to dispel that lie in your head. That is, if your mind is open to it. And I'm going to start with this analogy. So let's say you're a businessman with 6 shops scattered across this country. Now, all these 6 shops are in bad condition. However, one of these 6 shops gives you your most revenue. Now, let's say you make 1 million naira across these 6 shops, but that one shop gives you 800,000 naira of that 1 million naira every month. The remaining 5 shops give you the remaining 200,000 naira. Now, if you're a businessman looking to, invest in that business and expand it and make more money, what will you do? Now, if you go to a bank and borrow money, would you invest the money in the other 5 shops? Maybe with the belief that if you invest in these other 5 shops, they will start giving you 800,000 naira to compete with the shop that's already giving you 800,000 naira. Or would you go and build a 7th shop or buy a 7th shop with the mindset that maybe there's something wrong with other 6 shops. If I buy or build or rent another shop, maybe this one will start giving me 10 million. Or would you invest in that shop that's already sure that this one is already giving me 800,000 naira despite the inefficiencies? If I increase the processes, maybe if I put AC, if I paint it, I'll get more customers here and I might start making 2 million naira per month, which I can now invest in these other shops. As a smart businessman, which of these 3 decisions are you going to make? Now, keep that thought in your head. Let me go over some articles for you. So this is an article by financeinafrica.com published February 25, 2025, so you can read it on your own. It says, Nigeria bleeds $86 million annually to its shaky ports. Things are falling apart at Nigeria's port and it's starting to feel a lot like chaos Chinua Achebe imagined in his novels. Listen to the problems. Rising charges, inefficiencies, and excessive regulations have made clearing goods a costly nightmare, forcing importers to seek alternatives. Goods intended for Nigeria are now being processed in Togo, Ghana, and Benin Republic, where the costs are lower and the processes smoother. The result is a massive economic loss, and if nothing changes, the situation will only worsen. It says, why are businesses abandoning Nigerian ports? Recently, clearing costs at Nigerian ports rose sharply. The Nigerian Ports Authority increased tariffs from 7 to 15%, while terminal operators and shipping companies raised their fees by as much as 45%. So there are some figures here. I will just post them here. You can pause and read it. I don't want to go back there. To clear a 40-foot container in Nigeria is going to cost you between 18 to 26 million naira, while to clear a 20-foot container was previously 10 million, it is now 20 million naira. However, in Togo, clearing a 40-foot container cost about $3,500, which is 5.6 million naira, while Ghana is $7.2 million. Trucking from Lome Port in Togo to Lagos costs just 600,000 naira, while moving goods within Nigeria from Apapa can cost over 1 million. Are you seeing that? To truck from Lome in Togo to Lagos, 600,000 naira. But from Apapa to within Nigeria, over 1 million. Storage and dumage fees in Ghana and Benin Republic are also 30 to 50% lower than in Nigeria. With such significant cost difference, the shift away from Nigerian ports is hardly surprising. Nigeria once controlled about 70% of cargo traffic in West and Central Africa, but its ports are now losing relevance. Neighboring ports in Togo, Ghana, and Benin Republic are gaining an increasing share of Nigeria's bound cargo. Nigeria is estimated to be losing 130 billion naira annually in custom duties, VAT on imports, and other taxes that should have been collected at its ports. Instead, these revenues are flowing to neighboring countries which have capitalized on Nigeria's inefficiencies. Industry experts estimate that 90% of the cargo arriving at Lome Port is actually destined for Nigeria, but businesses would rather clear their goods there and transport them across the border than deal with Nigeria's exorbitant port charges. What can Nigeria learn from its neighbors? While Nigeria is losing trade, its neighbors are gaining from its failures. Togo, Ghana, and Benin Republic have created port systems that are more cost-effective and efficient, drawing businesses away from Nigeria. The most striking difference is the cost. So again, I'm going to just post this here. I won't go over it again, so you can pause and read it. Infrastructure is another major area where Nigeria is falling behind. Despite charging some of the highest tariffs in the region, Nigerian ports are plagued by congestion, poor road networks, and long delays. Ghana and Togo have invested in port automation, better road access, and expanded facilities to accommodate more cargo efficiently. If Nigeria wants to reclaim its role as West Africa's trade hub, it must invest in similar upgrades. Are you listening? Remember the analogy I gave you about the 6 shops? We'll come back to it. Nigeria has the potential to dominate regional trade, but without urgent reforms, it will continue to lose business to its neighbors. Now, I want to establish some facts. The very first fact is that Lagos does not have the only port in Nigeria. It will surprise you to know that a lot of Nigerians think this. Like the last post I made, go to the comments, you hear a lot of people saying if the government wants to, they should go and open other ports in other states. Hello, Nigeria has 6 ports. It has 3 in Lagos, Apapa, Tinkan, and Lekki. It has in Port Harcourt, it has in Warri, it has in Calabar. Right? The funny is that, you can only have a seaport when you have access to the sea. States that don't have access to the sea cannot have a seaport. But from what I have read here, you should know that the government has failed in its responsibilities across all the ports in the country. That even the port that gives us our major revenue, our most active ports, are not well maintained. You have seen the problems that the ports have. They said rising charges, inefficiencies, and excessive regulations. Now, in the last video I made, I played the video where the Deputy Governor of Lagos State was complaining about the impact the Apapa port is having on the infrastructure in Lagos. According to him, by global standards, the seaport is supposed to cater for all the facilities or the infrastructure within 20 kilometers of the seaport. But in Nigeria, that is not the case. That the government has abandoned that place, the infrastructure has collapsed, which has made businesses move out of that area, Apapa. That has made people, no longer live there anymore, making the Lagos State government lose revenue. On top of that, they have to even be spending their money to maintain infrastructure that the state government, the federal government is supposed to maintain, so that it does not impact other parts of the state. Now, does it now make sense to say that this state is a beneficiary of the incompetence of the government? They are also victims too. So I've stated 2 facts here. The first one is that Lagos does not have the only port in Nigeria. There are 3 other ports in Nigeria, right? But the second fact is that the federal government across past administrations have failed in their responsibilities of taking care of these ports. So it is no surprise that if the port that gives us our most revenue is suffering, what do you expect to happen in the other ports? Now, I could have gone into the history of the ports to show you why the colonizers chose Lagos amongst other states in Nigeria. But let's not go that far. Let's focus on why investors still keep building more ports in Lagos. After the Apapa Tinkan port, why did the investors, put money in Lekki Deep Seaport? And why are they trying to do another one in Badagry? Let me read this article from The Guardian. This is 17th July 2023. It says, the congesting Lagos ports, cash crunch, investors' apathy stalled $8.5 billion deep seaport projects. Despite the Federal Executive Council's approval on construction, lack of funding, investor apathy, and promoters' inability to articulate the commercial viability of relevant projects have stalled the development of 3 proposed deep seaport projects in Akwa Ibom, Badagry, and Ondo. The federal government has given approval for 3, according to this article, federal government has given approval for 3 ports in Akwa Ibom, Badagry, and Ondo, but lack of funding, investors' apathy. So investors don't want to invest, and then the promoters, so the state governors, have not been able to articulate the viability of this project. So The Guardian learned that state governments promoting the cumulative $8.5 billion worth of projects apparently to ease congestion in Lagos seaport hubs and reduce pressure on its infrastructure are largely counting on private sector funding. But poor commercial viability of the projects as conceptualized or poor marketing strategies are major setbacks to attracting the required funding to transform the dreams to realities. Investors' lack of confidence also poses a challenge as feasibility studies do not suggest that the market is ready to shift from Lagos soon. Proximity to other West African countries, sources have argued, is the major reasons importers choose Apapa, Tinkan, and Onne port for berthing their containers. Are you hearing the reasons why importers keep on coming to Apapa and Tinkan? Because in the comment of that my video, they say, oh, why would they come to Lagos? When, bro, you're seeing the reason here. They said proximity to other West African countries is the major reason why they choose Apapa. Interestingly, the Lekki Seaport's entry is another game changer in the mix. Its natural drought, that is the depth of the sea, gives it an advantage ahead of other ports in the country, even as Lagos is considered the center of commerce, not only in Nigeria, but also across West and East Africa. The Guardian also found out that the state government began their journey for deep seaport for political reasons, just to have their states among those with deep seaport achievement, not minding the business feasibility. These stakeholders say has hampered the projects across the board despite the millions of revenue generating projections from the said port. Sadly, Nigeria's lack of competitive ports has caused its status as Africa's maritime hub, which is why the government commenced the deep sea port project in different locations in the country. It is believed that the building of deep sea ports will bring in more economic value to the country and eventually make it a maritime hub across Africa and the west sub-region. Ibom Deep Seaport Akwa Ibom State, Badagry Deep Seaport Lagos, and Ondo Deep Seaport Ondo State have secured the approval of FEC and received insurance of the full business case certificate by the Infrastructure Commission, while Bonny Deep Seaport in Rivers State hopes to get the approval this year. For those that have obtained approvals, they are yet to begin real-time construction due to the mentioned challenges, which, according to stakeholders, may not be addressed anytime soon. The $4.6 billion Ibom Deep Seaport project, which has received FEC approval in 2020, same time as the Lekki Deep Seaport, has suffered serial setbacks. The federal government approved $2 billion for the project 3 years ago. So I'll just put up the remaining ones. You can pause and read it. So you can see the challenges here. That this is 2023. So this is new administration, which July 2023. This administration came in May of 2023. So you can see that they were actually, all the approvals they've been given, especially for Akwa Ibom. Go and build the port. But this is how it works, right? So the federal government cannot bring all the money to build a port. So what do? They look for private investors. The federal government brings 20% and gives the necessary approvals. The state government is supposed to bring, I think, 20% or 40%, while the investors will bring the balance, right? Now, the federal government, according to this report, has brought its own part of the deal. It has given the approvals and it has approved the financing. But the state government cannot bring the money, and investors don't want to invest because, according to them, these places are not viable. Let me read something. This is from, I think, 2021. It says, controversy hits Ibaka Deep Seaport project. This is in Akwa Ibom. Governor Udom Emmanuel of Akwa Ibom State had, in a live radio broadcast monitored by Vanguard Maritime Report, said the reason the deep seaport has not taken off was because investors have pulled out following the petitions the people of Oron wrote against the state government. He said the people who wrote the petition felt disgruntled over the change from Ibaka to Ibom, as the relocation of the project site from Ibaka, Oron to Ibano local government. These names are confusing me. The governor said Oron people should be held responsible if the multi-billion naira project does not come to fruition, as investors were scared of the persistent petitions. Again, I'll not go over this. I'll just post it. You can pause and read it. But in 2021, investors actually, Akwa Ibom was able to attract, get investors who wanted to invest in the Akwa Ibom Deep Seaport. But you saw it here. Community problems. The governor came and said, see, if this does not work, you people are the ones to blame. And this is part of why investors choose Lagos. Ask yourself, why did Dangote, this is a private citizen. Now, let's say all the past administrations, even though they have been from different regions, from Obasanjo administration to Yaradua to Jonathan, who is from the South, to Buhari and, to the present administration, let's say all of them are part of the plan to subdue the southern region, right? Why did Dangote choose to site his refinery in Lagos and not Akwa Ibom or Delta State, where you have the crude oil? Have you thought about it? Why did Dangote is about to do a deep seaport in Ogun State? Why didn't he do it in another region? Why in Ogun State? See, the earlier we begin to tell ourselves the truth in this country, the better it will be for everybody. I got this very interesting DM from a maritime consultant, and I'll read it out to you. He says, as a maritime consultant, the cost of shipping to the southeast and south-south is over-expensive. We look at traffic and tariff, port facilities, insecurity, and trade trends, supply chain, because timing is so important in shipping. The average rate for a tanker ship to move cargo from Lagos to PH or Calabar on time charter is $35,000 per day, depending on gross tonnage, which is going to take you 3 days sailing alone. And let's say a day to the port if you meet up with the tide, and days you will spend at the port. Meanwhile, you can ship to Lagos and transport your container to the southeast or south-south in 24 hours from Lagos. And also, Lagos is closer to other major ports in West Africa like Lomé and Cotonou, just as I read in the article, I think on The Guardian. It says, the Gulf of Guinea is a high-risk area for shipping, which discourages shipping line to go to the southeast and south-south. Even if you charter a ship from Lagos to Port Harcourt, and this region you have to go with an escort, hiring a navy ship to do that, it will cost you $5,000 a day. Apart from the community around the area, in bracket Warri route, they are a major problem. They set fishing line around the waterways and you dare not touch it, and that delays movement of goods. So let's assume the government puts everything in place. The security, the dredging. Trade in that region matters if you import everything which you will export back. Shipping companies won't just spend days or weeks to deliver few containers and then go back empty because they have trade routes. So the governor have a lot of role to play, not every time federal government. So what he's saying is that if a ship brings goods to the southeast or south-south, because there's not a lot of economic activity going there, the ship will have to go empty, which is going to be a waste of money for them. So if they are bringing goods, they want to take goods back so that, it's more cost effective. Are you following? He says, Oyo State doesn't have ports and is doing better than Ogun State. That is more closer to Lagos. State. Same with Kaduna and Kano. They have started the dry port in Oyo and Kaduna State respectively. If you open other ports, they can't compete with Lagos due to this. Are you following? So do you still think that this is a tribal, this is a plan from amalgamation, maybe from Lord Lugard, that, this certain region will not prosper? These are economic problems. Listen, ports is a major source of revenue for any government. And there is no sane government that will come and say, if I invest $10 million in this region is going to give me $100 million, which I can use to do other things. But because they did not vote for me, I will not invest this money there. That is stupidity. No government, no president will do that. If I know that if I invest money here, I will get it. Despite my tribal sentiment, despite whatever opinion I have of you, money is money. And you see that the state governors have a role to play. The security of your state is the job of the state governor. Boosting economic activity in your state that makes it worthwhile for shippers to bring their containers there and then carry things out is the job of the state governor. But everybody just looks at the president, federal government. Now, in that the video I made, I mentioned state governors and people came after me. Like, don't you understand how an economy works? Let me finalize with this. It says, evaluating Tinubu's reforms in the maritime sectors 2 years after. So this is on The Guardian, from The Guardian, 28th of May 2025. So they want to analyze what the Tinubu administration has done in the past 2 years in the maritime sector. When President Bola Tinubu assumed office on May 29, 2023, Nigeria's maritime industry was grappling with a series of endemic challenges, including congested ports, outdated infrastructure, slow cargo clearance processes, insecurity in the Gulf of Guinea, and a lack of modernization, as shippers and investors increasingly view the nation's waters as costly and inefficient. You can see, even from the older articles, everything aligns with what these people are saying. Other challenges, such as high cost of port operations, lack of functional rail connections to inland dry ports, and interagency rivalries, still hinder seamless maritime trade, as critics argued that without strong enforcement and accountability mechanisms, reforms instituted may stall. So what are some of these interventions the president has done in the past 2 years? The president has introduced several significant interventions and achieved notable milestones in the nation's maritime sector, aligning with the renewed hope agenda and the $1 trillion economy. The president's reforms created the Federal Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy in August 2023, headed by Adeboyega Oyetola, to harness the sector's vast economic potential and resources. The maritime sector has for decades been without a dedicated sector to cater for its activities, as it was under the Ministry of Transportation, without little focus on prioritizing affairs of the sector. So, from what these people are saying, the president brought out the maritime sector, to make it his own ministry, away from the Ministry of Transportation. So it shows you how focused he is. He knows how important that sector is. The ministry has since developed a comprehensive national blue economy strategy plan in collaboration with international partners like the World Bank and AUIBAR, outlining a 10-year roadmap for the sector's growth. The ministry also approved a focused framework for addressing long-standing challenges in the sector, enhancing competitiveness and aligning with the African Continental Free Trade Agreement to boost regional trade. On port infrastructure development, the country had battled with poor infrastructure, with the quay apron of some ports in a deteriorating state. Tinubu's administration initiated comprehensive rehabilitation projects worth $1 billion for major ports, including Tinkan Island, Apapa, on Warri and Calabar port complexes aimed at modernizing infrastructure and improving operational efficiency. The upgrades at Lagos and Onne ports are expected to increase cargo handling capacity by over 30%, reducing turnaround times and enhancing competitiveness. Already, APM Terminals has completed the rehabilitation of Apapa Port Quay apron under the PPP model. Also recognizing the inefficiencies plaguing the nation's ports, the Tinubu administration prioritized their modernization with plans to deepen port drafts to accommodate larger vessels. Additionally, new ports are on the way in locations such as Badagry, Ilaje, and Ibaka, aiming to decentralize maritime activities and boost regional economies. For digital transformation to streamline port operations and reduce bureaucratic bottlenecks, the government launched digital platforms like the National Single Window and the Port Community System aim to centralize and automate port processes, facilitating easier compliance and improving overall efficiency. So I can go on and on. I'll just post it here. I'm tired of reading it. But you can see. So, with all you have heard me say, do you still think that there's an intentional plan to hold a region down? Or this has just been a case of bad government policies across board?